March straight outside and wash, or you'll not get a bite to eat.
I just watched the new Avatar live action remake second season, and I have a lot of notes on this season, and mainly just on the show as a whole. But the thing I started to realize recently with not only this remake but also the Snow White live action remake, and in a way even the Moana live action, is that now we're kind of in a way losing what it means to be a soft and sensitive female lead. How, despite Snow White back in the 1930s, was supposed to be this really innocent, naive, yet sweet and soft female lead, is now some kind of girl boss who's just out here being a leader. And there's nothing wrong with giving us a female character who's supposed to be a leader or wanting to modernize their characters, but it's clearly obvious that now Hollywood sees female characters as strong and independent, and they pretty much equal that to strength. But they also have this problem where, like, if a character is soft or sensitive or just emotionally open, it equals to weakness. But that's actually not true. And it's so disappointing seeing what happened with female characters now and how they're perceived. And today I kind of want to talk more about the importance that comes with these soft and sensitive female characters and why they actually are a lot stronger than people think they are.
Beverage is truly delightful.
Starfire?
That's mustard.
One of the reasons why Starfire from the Cartoon Network adaptation of Teen Titans in the 2000s is because she's actually a very emotionally open and vulnerable character, but that never equals to weakness, or she's never seen as being weak because of her emotions. See, Starfire is in fact the emotional core of the fun group. She's the one person who's basically the heart of the team. She's the one who pretty much keeps everyone together and is always the sweetheart to everyone around her. She is in fact the innocent alien. She's new to Earth and doesn't really understand Earth's customs or lingos as well as the other people around her, as everyone else have either been humans or are humans. What makes Starfire really impactful is that her emotions throughout the show, they're never treated as a sign of weakness. Starfire does in fact have very big emotions. Like, she is from Tamaran, and for those who don't know, Tamaranians are shown having really strong emotions, and the emotions impact a lot of what they do when it comes to their powers. Starfire admits in season 1 when she switches bodies with Raven is that her powers only activate when she's feeling positive emotions. And while that does seem like something basic, the more you think about it, it actually starts to really show just how emotionally strong Starfire actually is. Because despite her having a lot of personal problems, such as her insecurities, or her problems with her relationship with Robin, or even sometimes when she's being insulted or discriminated by other people, Starfire still has really strong powers, and she's able to use her powers really well, which does in fact show how strong she is at handling her emotions. We get to see this in the episode Sisters in season 1, where Starfire does get introduced to her older sister, and her older sister, she pretty much feels like she's just a worse version of her older sister Blackfire. Despite that though, her friends never once shame her for having these emotions. When Robin goes to check up on her, he reminds her that no matter what, she is in fact irreplaceable. In the episode Transformations in season 2, when she's insecure about her appearance, Robin and the rest of the team reassure her that she doesn't have to feel like her appearance means everything, that no matter what, they'll always still be her friends. I feel like the beauty behind Starfire's emotions in the show is how they are perceived by the rest of the cast. Her friends never once shame her for having big emotions. Whilst there are some members of the team who have different reactions to her emotions, mainly Raven being the main exception, they never once shame her for having these big emotions. In the switcheroo episode with Raven, Starfire and Raven do struggle a lot with dealing with one another because they are in fact the polar opposites when it comes to emotions. But Starfire never actually has to change who she is in this episode. It's more towards the fact that they have to learn to connect and meet in the middle. In the episode Betrothed, even though Starfire is forced into an arranged marriage by Blackfire, she is shown to actually not really be fully happy with the fact that she has to be married and eventually literally has to leave her friends forever to be with this guy, even though again she has feelings for Robin. So it's a lot for her to baggage and handle, but despite feeling all these emotions, Starfire still remains cheerful and happy for her friends. Though I think the best example of this that we've ever seen for Starfire's character is actually in the episode Truck, which I would say is actually one of the best depictions of discrimination and racism that we've ever seen in a cartoon. But in this episode, the hero Valior pretty much spends the entirety of the episode discriminating Starfire and calling her by a racist term known as truck, which as she states means nothing. Despite feeling this way though, Starfire never lets her own personal feelings get in the way of the mission. She's shown being upset at Valior and even stands up for herself, but she doesn't actually go against the mission. She still listens to him when he's giving her orders, and she doesn't let that get in the way of what's important. Even when Cyborg and Robin both find out and wanna confront Valior, Starfire tells Robin and Cyborg not to do anything as she knows that the mission takes priority. But I feel like the one thing I truly do love about Starfire's reaction in this episode is that she never actually insults Valior specifically. She never talks back to him with anger or rage. She doesn't actually discriminate him or talk bad towards him. All she does is just defend herself and her people. Starfire doesn't even yell at him most of the time. She just tells him that she wants to help and that her and her people are in fact capable of helping each other and themselves. What makes this truly important is that Starfire isn't yelling or being awful to him. Instead, she's showing that softness does not equal weakness. She's being sweet and kind while still being strong and defensive towards herself and her people. And after her friends do find out, they all still side with her. And even though Valior doesn't change by the end of the episode, Starfire isn't gonna let that get to her head and is aware that none of that what Valior said really mattered. She's able to control her emotions really well, because even though she may suffer through a lot of problems of her own, whether it's her past, her sister, or her insecurities, or even just discrimination, she never lets that get to her head, nor does she ever let that control her feelings or her emotions. And I also really love how her team is always supportive of her sensitivity and her emotions. When she is shown sensitivity, she's never shamed for it by her friends at all. I feel like one of my favorite moments of this, which is pretty minor, is in the finale of season 4, where after while Raven is making the portal, Starfire cannot bear to see her friend in pain, so she goes and Robin hugs her, shielding her away from what's going on. This scene is really sweet, but it also shows just how well Starfire is able to show her feelings to her friends and how her friends will always be there to comfort her on her feelings. This is what makes Starfire really work as a soft yet sensitive female lead, because she's soft, yes, but her softness isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of hidden strength, because her emotions are big and her emotions do fill up a lot of room, but they're used to help the people around her and prioritize the people around her instead of it being too much. You look at Serena's character on paper, you wouldn't really expect much from her. After all, she was in a shonen anime style kind of series where she was in fact very feminine, very perky, and she had a major crush on the male protagonist. You definitely would expect her to just be nothing more than just the basic love interest or potential love interest of the show. But then you start to watch Pokemon XY/XY and Z, and you start to notice that she's actually one of the most well-developed characters in all of Pokemon. Now, does that make her the best female character in Pokemon? Honestly, no. I do think Dawn and May are actually better, or they have better arcs than she does. But what makes Serena really impactful is that she represents something really important to Pokemon, and that's being how you don't have to be this strong Pokemon fire to be a really impactful character. What makes Serena really interesting is that she actually doesn't start off with a dream. She starts off being lost and confused with what she wants out of life. She continues a routine that, while she's really bored and clearly dislikes, She sticks to it because it's comfortable to her. She knows the daily schedule. She knows that from day one to day two, that's what she's going to be doing. She knows what she's going to be doing this entire time. To wake up, to eat breakfast, to do ride racing, to fail, and then just that's it. And then it's just repeat. She doesn't like it, but it's something that's in her comfort zone. And it's something that she's aware of doing. This is why Serena really struggles with getting out and trying new things, because she struggles a lot with getting out of her comfort zone. This is pretty much Serena's entire arc throughout the show. It's all about her learning to pretty much break out of her shell and figure out what she wants out of life besides what was planned for her by her mom. One of my favorite things about Serena's characterization for me is that she's actually a character who has so many different hobbies and interests outside of just like having Pokemon or like being a Pokemon performer later on in the story. For the first half of XY, she actually doesn't really have like an actual goal yet. She's kind of just like traveling with like Ash and like the rest of the team, like Bonnie and Clement, kind of just figuring out what she wants out of life. But while she's like figuring that out, we actually get to see her having a lot of hobbies and interests. She enjoys fashion, shopping, baking, gardening, and she does honestly like really enjoy like various different things. This actually really helps her feel like an actual person who has different interests and hobbies outside of just like having one set goal. And while some people may complain that it took her a while to figure out what her dream was, I actually kind of like this because it allows us to really like deeply like examine her character and like figure out like what she wants to do. So her spending some time alone, figuring out not figuring out what to do yet, makes her feel like an actual person. But when she does figure out what she wants out of life to become a Pokemon performer, it's actually pretty inspiring, especially when she actually fails her first performance. This leads to like one of the main like strengths that Serena has throughout the entire show, and that is emotional resilience. Despite losing her first Pokemon showcase in a pretty humiliating way, mind you, like it was in like public, it was like it was literally like podcasts out the entire region. But despite losing, she actually doesn't like respond to bitterness or jealousy at all. She's actually really happy for her friend Shauna when she wins. She's shown having a smile to her friends after she loses. And while she does have a bit of a meltdown later on in front of her Pokemon, she does actually is, while she is upset that she lost, she's actually is also proud of herself by taking this first step into following her dream. Serena does fail, but she also realizes and learns a lot from her mistake and figures out what to do later on the next time in her performance. But one thing that makes Serena really impactful is that she doesn't take any of that regret or sorrow out on the people around her. She only does this once in an episode where her Pokemon were messing around, but immediately actually feels bad for how she treated them and immediately apologizes the second she comes back. Serena never actually like lets her own personal feelings get in the way of the people around her. Even when she loses another Pokemon performance later on, she never blames her Pokemons for it. Instead, she reminds them that the whole point is to have fun, and that's like the whole point of of following your dream. Another thing I also really love about Serena's characterization is that she also like has more like relationships outside of her like feelings slash crush on Ash the protagonist. She actually forms a lot of relationships of her own. She has this loving sister relationship with Bonnie. She has this friendship with Clement. She forms her own friends with Shauna and Nini, and even has her own rivalry with Miette. And she also has a really loving relationship with her Pokemon. And I feel like the one relationship with her Pokemon that definitely should be talked about more is her relationship with Eevee, which was obviously done just to like market the new Eevee evolution, Sylveon. But one thing I actually do really love about Eevee and Serena's relationship is that Eevee's arc actually heavily mirrors Serena's arc. When we first meet Eevee, it was in the forest all alone, and because of that, it struggles a lot with being in front of people and is very shy and gets really nervous when they have to perform in front of other people. So, in a way, Evie actually starts off the same way that Serena does. They start off not really knowing what they want out of life, and despite wanting to dance, they're too afraid of getting out of their comfort zone and breaking through that one shell. And Serena helps Evie break out of that shell. And even though Evie loses the performance as it makes a mistake, Serena never gets mad at Evie itself, and instead reminds Evie that it's their first time, and as long as they had fun, that's all that matters. This is what makes Evie and Serena's relationship really impactful, because it basically mirrors each other's arcs as a whole. And seeing Serena learn to figure out what she wants out of life and trying to achieve it, it is really impactful, and the show never once treats her. The thing I love is that even though Serena does build up her confidence as the show continues, she never once loses her kindness or her empathy at all. She's always really kind and sweet to the people around her. She knows when to encourage Ash, when to give him advice, and also when to scold him when he is going too far. This is actually what makes the relationship a lot more impactful. Whether or not if you actually do agree with like the whole ship, the one thing that Ash and Serena have that I really appreciate is the mutual admiration. While Serena does have an obvious crush on Ash, it's framed more as admiration, because she has a crush on Ash, yes, but admiration is like the number one thing about the relationship. Serena does admire Ash a lot. She admires his boldness, his determination, and him knowing what he wants and how to get it. Meanwhile, Ash actually does deeply admire Serena as well. It's just more in a more subtle and quiet way. He admires her internal strength, which is in fact her kindness and her emotional resilience. Despite losing a couple performances and not being Color's queen, she still shows a smile and caring nature towards the people around her. And she still is able to help Ash with his own journey right afterwards. Serena's kindness is what makes her a strong female lead. It's her kindness to the people around her, despite going through her own failings. She never takes her own bitterness on the people around her, and she's never shown being cruel or mean to other people. This is what makes Serena herself a really strong female lead, despite not having any physical strength of her own. The funny things about Avatar for me is that a cartoon in the 2000s that was made by Nickelodeon was somehow so much better with handling the female characters than a Netflix live action remake that took years in development that was made in the 2020s. Because the way that the characters in Avatar are handled in the remake is like night and day compared to the original. And the one character who's definitely butchered the most, or like one of the most for me, has to be Katara. As in the original, Katara, yes, she was like this really strong fighter, like she was a strong waterbender, she was this waterbending master, but that wasn't her distinct strength. That wasn't her only characteristic in the show. The problem with the live action remake for Katara is that she's basically just a girl boss. She's just this really strong person, like physically, but that's it. That's kind of all she is. In the original, Katara is literally the emotional core of the team. She is, yes, she's basically the mother of the team. She's nurturing Aang, Sokka, and even Toph, even though Toph may not like it all the time. But she's also like the person who's like pushing everyone. Whilst Aang may be the symbol of hope as he is the avatar, Katara is in fact the one person to give Aang said hope. While everyone else is all devastated when they're in the desert, Katara is one person who pushes everyone to safety. She may not be, again, the leader, but she is definitely the one person who's emotionally lifting everyone around her. These characters, they matter so much more than you think. The reason why is because they challenge a misconception that has become increasingly common in media. The misconception that strength and softness cannot coexist. Starfire proves that emotional openness can in fact be powerful and encouraging. Serena proves that kindness can in fact survive failure. And Katara proves that nurturing others requires enormous courage. All three shows us forms of strength that are often ignored, and that's why they are important. And this is why Hollywood and, in a way, Disney has been failing at this, because most of the recent films feel like that compassion is less important, nurturing becomes less important, emotional gentleness becomes less important, and especially when it comes to romantic subplots and relationships, they treat it like it's completely pointless and not actually significant for the characters. Because might I remind you, all three female characters I just talked about in this video, they all are romantically involved in some way, shape, or form with the male protagonist of their shows.
You are certain Earth is not under attack?
Positive.
Starfire and Robin end up dating by the end of the show, so does Katara and Aang, and even though Ash and Serena don't get together by the end of the show, Serena's feelings slash crush on Ash is actually it takes up a lot of time in the show itself, but also actually kind of in a way develops a bit too, as whilst they don't get together again and we don't know Ash's feelings, she does become like less like determined into dating him as the show continues. So that's actually like it's proof that like even though like these three female characters they do have romantic feelings or intentions with the male protagonist, they're not actually weakened by said feelings. Instead, those feelings actually make them feel more real and they actually resonate more with their characters a lot more. And one thing I actually really love about each of these female characters is that the male protagonists of their shows actually are like really sweet and kind towards their sensitivity and softness. They never once shame any of them for having this deep sense of kindness and softness, and they're never treated as being too much by their main male counterparts for how they feel and how they act. Honestly, I just really hope that like Hollywood, Disney, and like so much more studios start to give us way more female leads like this, because I truly believe that we do need to get more soft and sensitive female characters and show to younger audiences that it's not a problem for you to be soft and kind, and that you don't have to be fighting on a battlefield or being a strong athlete to be a strong character or a strong person. But what do you guys think about this? Do you guys agree with me on how Hollywood is like ruining female characters now by not making them soft or sensitive? Or do you think I'm over exaggerating here, and do you actually like what Hollywood is doing now? Thank you so much for watching, guys, and goodbye!